September always feels like such a new beginning to me. I just always associate it with those back to school vibes, and every single year they hit me really, really hard, even though I'm now almost 49 and school was like a really long time ago? But still, I just really feel that blank slate energy, that new beginning energy, something really, really special about the start of September. And every single year, as we get closer to September, I think of 10-year-old me back in New York, where I grew up in Flushing, Queens. On the first day of school, I was the kid with that backpack that was like packed to the brim. You know those really big, like square almost backpacks? Well, that's what I had. And I insisted on taking every single piece of my new stationery with me to school on the first day of school. So I had all my notebooks and all my pens and pencils and markers and probably a new pencil case and probably some stickers to trade. All that stuff came with me on day one. And I remember like I could barely lift the thing. But I had to bring it all with me. I was probably the only one in my class who did that. And every single year, I spare a thought for 10-year-old me lugging that thing to school. I kind of wish I could go stationery shopping like that again. I don't need as much stationery at this point in my life, so I don't. But man, was that fun. Anyway, that was a long time ago, but I still love that back to school feeling. I still really feel this clean slate kind of energy when we come to September. And so I like to make the most of it? And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the things that I do myself to set myself up for a great month, to give myself the best possible chance of having a really great month. I'll tell you about the questions I'm asking, the inner work I'm doing, the practices I'm committing to, the things that are important to me at this time. And hopefully, you'll find something for yourself in here as well, so that you too can step into September in a more intentional way. And so that you can get more of what you want out of the month and experience more of the things that really make a difference to you, that really matter to you, that really make your life great. So, if we haven't met yet, my name is Joanna, and on this channel, I talk about making things like intuition and soul alignment practical so that we actually do them, so that we actually implement these concepts and let them make our lives better and help us feel happier in ourselves and in our lives. So many monthly planning videos focus on the physical things that we can do. So there's a lot of goal setting, there's a lot of decluttering and setting up physical spaces. There's even a lot of like journal setup, which I am definitely not against. I love setting up my journal for a new month as well. But I also think it's really important to tune in within into yourself and see what's happening energetically and kind of I guess the concept would be the same as with your physical spaces. So declutter what's no longer necessary and set yourself up with a clean, energetic slate as well. And tap into what your soul desires, tap into what your intuition says, not just what you want to achieve this month, but like what's really, really aligned for you in this season of life moving forward. These practices will, of course, help your outer world shift as well, because your outer world will reflect your inner world. But I think more importantly, these practices feel really good, because they make you feel connected. They make you feel more in tune with who you really are, more true to yourself, and therefore more at peace and therefore happier. So those are all things that I want for myself, and I'm sure that you want them too. All right, well, let's get to it. So, the first thing that I do every single month, so, no exception with this September, the first thing that I do is release the old month. Now, I know that this is actually part of a lot of productivity practices as well, to kind of note down what's working, what's not working, what you could do better. But I have always skipped over over that part of any kind of monthly setup process. It just didn't work for me. I had zero interest in noting down exactly what I achieved and didn't achieve and tried to think about reasons for why I didn't achieve particular things. That bit of it just never really worked for me, so I skipped over it. However, when I started to focus more on energetics, it just made sense to first address the month that's ending. And the questions that I asked made it really doable. There was none of this kind of, you weren't good enough energy. My process really focuses on lessons, on realizations, on insights, on things that will basically like help you move forward in the future, not just achieve more but feel better moving forward. Because I think when you feel like you didn't do well enough last month, it's unlikely that you're going to do better this month, essentially. That's my point of view. I have never really responded very well to tough love. I have never responded well to like, boot camp style, really harsh motivation. So maybe that's just me, but if it's you as well, then this may be a really worthwhile way of trying it for yourself. So I do a couple of things as pertains to the month that's ending. So one of the things I do is just look through my journals and my calendar and note down anything that I want to remember. So anything that I did that I want to mark down in some way, anything that happened that I feel like was a core feature of my month. So this isn't like inner work. This is really like memory keeping. And then what I do is a memory keeping scrapbook type spread in one of my journals. I print out some photos, I make some notes, I use my colored pens, and it just helps me remember what happened over the course of the month and really make conscious what I want to remember in the future. And I started doing this kind of like a creative exercise, but it gives me so much because I find that at the end of the month, I can barely remember what happened at the beginning, like even though it was only a month ago and even though some of the things were quite big. So this just helps me bring to the surface the stuff that I want to remember, not just a month later, but 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, that I will enjoy looking back on. So it's kind of just a log, a life log of what happened in my life. So my August one, I'm actually doing that this weekend. I haven't done it yet, but my August one will be about our vacation. We took a 2.5 week vacation. We went to the Netherlands and to Poland, where I'm from, and then to Belgium, where we used to live. So a lot happened. There's a lot to remember. There's a lot to note down. Most importantly, I think, or most significantly for me, I had to, or we had to take 4 flights within those 2.5 weeks. And I'm quite a nervous flyer for various reasons that I won't go into. And I did really well. So that's something that I really, really want to note down, that this is the month that things changed for me, that I was able to get through those flights in a totally different way. So that's something that I will definitely be noting down. I'll use my stickers. I think I have a sticker of a plane somewhere. It'll be super fun. Then I'll do some journaling on what I learned or what I realized this month or how I moved forward on projects that are important to me, on my work, on my creative work, on my inner work, lessons that I know that I was learning. So, for example, this August, as I said, part of our vacation was spending time in Poland, where I'm from. That meant a lot of family time with my parents, for example. And so, when you spend extended amounts of time with your parents as an adult, there are always lessons to learn. There are always things that come up to the surface. So there's just stuff around that I would like to make conscious so that I can bring it forward and build on that. That's really the purpose of it. So I'll do some freestyle journaling and I'll also pull some tarot or oracle cards. Obviously, my practice would not be complete without some kind of tarot or oracle element. So the questions that I ask myself about the month that's ending is things like, what was my main lesson this past month? Or what did I learn this past month? Or if I'm feeling a bit quirky, I ask, like, what does August want to tell me right now? If I had a particularly heavy month, I may want to ask some extra questions like, what do I need to release from this month? Or what do I want to make sure to move forward? Or what does my soul want me to know about this month? Or if there was a particular theme, if I spent a lot of time with my family or spent a lot of time working on my business or a part of my business, like this YouTube channel, maybe I want to ask, well, what was my main lesson as regards this particular area of my life? So the free journaling really gives me an idea of where I'm at in terms of the things that happened and the things that I've been realizing or learning. And then the cards give me an extra dimension. Typically it'll be something that I hadn't thought of, something that I wouldn't otherwise get. So to get me to notice something that I wouldn't be noticing, or that I'm glossing over, or that I'm avoiding. Like if I'm feeling particularly shitty about myself, I might ask, what can I be proud of that I'm not currently feeling proud of? So I try to make that practice of closing the month very, very aligned with where I am in that moment as the month is ending and what I need in order to make peace with what happened during that month and to move forward in a strong, grounded, aligned way. Because that's the point, right? The idea is to make peace with what happened, to process any lessons, to make conscious any healing so that you can integrate that and then move on, build on it, like so that that can be your foundation for the next step. Then I move on to asking questions about the month that's coming. So, in this case, September. And by the way, if you like the idea of closing your month in this way, of looking back and looking forward and pulling some cards, and you want to do that in community and as part of a guided process, I actually guide a process like that every month at the end of every month. Make sure that you are on my mailing list. The link will be below if you want to be notified about that. Right. So the first question I ask about any new month, and this remains stable, remains the same for every single month, really. The first question I ask, and I highly, highly encourage you to ask this question as your main question as well, is what do I want? What do you want? Not just from September in general, not just from the fall season in general, not just in your life in general. What do you want from this particular September? Okay. From this place of, being 1 day, 2 days, 3 days before the month starts, or maybe a couple of days into the month. What do you want to experience this particular September? Keeping in mind, yes, the season in the world. So, if it's fall, like it is here in Ireland, then you may want to do some fall related things, but also related to your own season of life, whether you have small children or whether your kids are going through something particular. So my teen has something specific in October that I'm spending some energy preparing for. And so that's going to color what I need and what I want from this particular September. That won't be for all the Septembers ever. So really pay attention to what you want from this particular September or what you need from this particular September. And I just like to do this as like a free writing exercise, just bullet points. And I should say that it might feel a little bit awkward at first because we are actually not used to asking ourselves the question, what do you actually want? We are used to pushing through, we are used to just doing things based on somebody else's agenda or expectations or desires or needs. And it's very rare that we sit down to ask ourselves what we actually want. So if you take anything from this video today, take that one question and make sure you ask yourself every single month, before every single month, what do I actually want? And let me share some of the things that I want from this particular September with you. I want to bake a lot of Polish cakes because Polish cakes are the best. We have a lot of cakes that are made with fruit. There's a lot of summer cakes, but a lot of the cakes that I like and that my teen likes are made with apples and plums, for example, and that is just very conducive to fall baking. So I really want to make a lot of cakes. When I was growing up, we used to have cake every weekend. So my mother would make a cake for every weekend. So there was something, some kind of treat in the house for every weekend. And I just don't do that. And I want to. So in September, I want to do that. I want to work on a new tarot journal. So I already have one. I only have the one tarot journal. Let me just show it to you. It's here if you haven't seen it, though you may have seen it already. It is on Amazon if you would like to have a look. I use it all the time. myself. But more importantly for me, I had a really great time creating it. It was a really wonderful creative process for me. And I have like a million ideas for other journals, for Soul Smart journals, for guided Oracle and Tarot journals, for planners, for all sorts of things. So I want to spend some time this month on that creative project. It is difficult for me to designate time for projects like this because I like to see results of things very quickly. And something like that takes time, you know? It takes time to design, it takes time to write the content, it takes time to actually put together in Canva. So there's just like a whole process to it. So I know that I need to be intentional about this if it's something that I would like to experience. Since, as I said, it's fall here in the west of Ireland and it's already pouring outside, so it's definitely started. I want to do some fall themed things. I want to feel cozy a lot of the time, so I want to make sure that I decorate my home for this season. I want to read some fall themed books and watch some fall themed movies. I'm just making those lists at the moment. So if you have anything that I should definitely add to them, then let me know. And I want to spend some time outside, which I find more difficult when the weather turns cooler and rainier, wetter, wetter here in Ireland. So I have decided that what I'm going to do is commit to doing more yard work. We have quite a chunk of land here in rural Galway, and it just requires a lot of work, a lot of care, which I'm not very good at giving it. So to combine that need with my desire to be outside more and keeping in mind the fact that I know that I won't go for walks because I don't really like them if they don't have a point. I don't just like to go for a walk in the park. I know that my way to be outside is probably going to be related to yard work, so I'm going to commit to that. So these are some of the things that I want out of this particular September and this particular season of my life. I haven't told you all of them, obviously, because this would be a very long video. I want a lot of things. But I think it's important to note that the things that I shared with you are things that I want to make sure that I fit in. This is not my general to do list. This is not my list of goals. This also doesn't include the things that I'm already doing and that are working well. So, for example, I have a really good gym and exercise routine that I spent intentional time on previously. Now it's working really smoothly, really well, and I'm very happy with it. So, my intentional attention doesn't need to go to that area of my life. So it's not, it's not a desire anymore. It's just kind of the way I live my life. So my list, when I ask myself what I want from this season, really includes the things that are new, the things that I haven't made space for, the things that I still want to fit in, knowing that I also have, like everybody, responsibilities and work stuff and family stuff and all the life stuff that goes on as well. And so I don't want to lose track of these other things that are really important to me, but that tend to get lost because life gets busy. Now, I will say that I will also make a list of goals, work related goals, perhaps a list of things that I really want to get done in the house this particular month as opposed to next month or next year. And that's fine too. I'm a big list maker. I love making my list at the start of a new month. And that's great. That will just give you a big picture of everything that's happening in your life or that you would like to see in your September. So don't skip over those parts either if you want to do them. And then once you have this kind of rounded, well-rounded picture of what you want during this particular month and this particular season of your life, we'll take out the tarot cards. So I asked two questions of my cards every month regularly. I will probably add some extra ones when I run the soul connector circles, when I take a whole group of people through this intentional month setup process. I add questions as well, depending on the needs of the group. So this can shift. But these two questions that I'm going to share with you right now are always there. So once I know what I want from the month, I will always ask my cards what will help me have a great month and what could get in my way, or how could I get in my own way? You can phrase it either way. Really, the meaning is the same. So let me just share with you my cards for September. It's hard to do with one hand, but I'm holding this microphone now. So I'm using this deck for my monthly cards for those two questions. This is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer deck. I am a huge, huge, huge massive Buffy fan. When this came out, I couldn't get my hands on it quickly enough. I absolutely love this deck, and my family and I are currently rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I'm very, very excited about. We're still only on season one, so there's plenty of Buffy to go throughout the season. And so this just felt like a really great deck to use for my own intention setting, let's say. So let me share with you the cards that I got for the question, what would help me or what will help me have a great month as I defined it, right? So, what will help me get those things that I want out of my month? I pulled the Six of Chalices, which is the Six of Cups. And in this particular deck, if you know Buffy, then this is Giles and Joyce during the Band Candy episode. So there's an element, very clear element of like turning back the clock, nostalgia for when we were younger and had less responsibility, those kinds of themes. They're playing with being teens. And this in this particular episode, and that's what's portrayed on this card. And they actually spend a lot of time doing things like listening to records, listening to music, and I remember doing that a lot when I was younger as well. Like everybody kind of just sharing their love of music and putting on different songs, and oh, do you know this one? It was a really fun thing to do. So this is the energy that will help me have a better month or a great month, is leaning into that, so leaning into childhood comforts and the things that I have always found fun, and that version of me, that 10-year-old that I told you about at the beginning of the video with the packed backpack full of stationery. Because I think there's something about when we were young, when we were kids, when we were teens, when we were in our early mid 20s, there's something about being that age that's very true to ourselves, A lot of those things that we liked at the time, that we gravitated towards at the time, were what we kind of naturally enjoyed before we learned what we should be spending our time on, before we wanted to be more productive, before we kind of joined society in this very particular productivity obsessed way. So that's the message for me, is to lean more into those things that brought me enjoyment and comfort when I was younger. And I am absolutely taking that on board. I am planning a lot of cozy activities, and I want to make even my work feel cozier. So yes, I'm definitely taking that on board. There will be a lot of reading. There will be a lot of playing games. I play a wonderfully cozy game on the Nintendo Switch called Wildflowers, and I just adore it. Yeah, so I'm taking that through the month. And for the question of what could get in my way, I pulled the Six of Scythes, which is the Six of Swords. And in this particular Buffy version, this is Oz turning into a werewolf. And so I feel like what could get in my way is my resistance to change, my resistance to showing up with my true nature. Like if you're a werewolf, you can't control that part of yourself, even though other people probably won't like it so much. So there's an element of just going with the flow of who you are and allowing yourself to be who you are. And like everybody, I sometimes resist that, and especially doing things like these videos, which I am just beginning to become more comfortable with, to teach myself to do in a way that feels enjoyable and doable to me. There's definitely an element of being authentic here that can be quite challenging for someone who has spent a large portion of her life masking certain parts of her personality. That's me. I'm talking about myself in the third person for some reason. That's how the sentences came out. So that's how we're going to do it. But yeah, so that's what could stand in my way, is that resistance to authenticity, that resistance to change, that resistance to growth, that resistance to showing parts of myself that are very much a part of me, but that maybe I don't want other people to see. So that I'm taking that on board. This is definitely not news to me. This is part of like a longer process of transformation that I've been going through for a few months now. So definitely it feels aligned. But yeah, you can see from my example that these are quite useful. Like I now know what to lean into and I know what to watch out for. And those two pieces of information will be key to be having a good month this September. So don't skip over this. You can use any cards that you have that you like. I had somebody on the last Soul Connector call. They didn't have cards with them, so they just pulled some online. There are plenty of websites for that as well. So, there's kind of no excuses. You can definitely pull some cards. Yeah. And that's it. That's my process for setting myself up for a great September, for setting up a good month for myself, for setting myself up for what I consider a great month. I hope that there's something in here that appeals to you as well. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know if you're going to try, or if you are trying, or if you have tried any of the practices, any of the questions that I share here. And obviously, let me know if there's anything extra that you would like me to talk about as well. Have a great month of September, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.